John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette-Kennedy were the power couple of the 1990s, the glamorous American counterpart to Britain's royal family.
There is this great weight of expectation and anticipation, and I think.
And while history would later freeze them as tragic, almost mythic figures, doomed lovers, victims of the so-called Kennedy curse, their real story was far more human, messy, complicated, and deeply emotional. And believe it or not, it all started with a fitting room. Carolyn was working as a publicist at Calvin Klein. One day, the designer and his wife asked her to help John pick out clothes around 1991 or 1992. The timing varies, but what doesn't is the impression she made. She was known as the most magnetic person on the sales floor and the go-to for VIP clients. John walked in looking for suits and walked out smitten. He left with more than new outfits. He also had Carolyn's number. John's best friend later said, Carolyn intrigued him more than anyone he'd ever met, a force of nature. He said he wanted to marry her. He was adamant. That's a bold declaration for a first impression, right?
Absolutely, from day one.
But the early days were anything but smooth. At one of their first public outings, a gala dinner, John was seated next to another woman, and Carolyn reportedly wasn't impressed with how it looked. When he invited her to the after party, she declined, saying she had other plans, making it clear she wouldn't just play along as another name on his arm. Still, something kept pulling them back together. At a fundraiser in May 1992, they were spotted deep in conversation for over an hour. Just the two of them. That was different. That was real. But here's where things got complicated. Carolyn never met John's mother, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, before her death in 1994. And for Carolyn, that mattered a lot. She reportedly wondered how serious they really were if she hadn't been introduced, especially since John had already met her mother. For John, though, introducing Carolyn to Jackie may have felt like crossing a major line, making the relationship official in a way that couldn't be undone. In the Kennedy world, a mother's approval carried real weight. And interestingly, John often seemed to lean even harder into relationships his mother questioned, as was rumored in the case of Daryl Hannah.
It's very good to be the son of a legend.
I mean, it's complicated, and it makes for a rich and complicated life.
Years later, John reportedly reflected on it and called not introducing Carolyn to his mother one of his main regrets. Eventually, in July 1995, John proposed during a fishing trip to Martha's Vineyard. He slid a platinum ring with diamonds and sapphires onto her finger and said, "Fishing is so much better with a partner." Romantic, right? Carolyn's response? "I'll think about it." And she did, for about 3 weeks, which, honestly, may have only made him more certain. They married on September 21st, 1996, in an intimate ceremony on Cumberland Island, Georgia. 40 guests, a tiny church. Carolyn arrived slightly late and walked down the aisle in that now iconic, minimalist Narciso Rodriguez slip dress. Effortless, timeless, still referenced in bridal fashion today.
It was very exciting, wonderful evening.
From the outside, they looked like a dream. Inside, it was more complicated. Carolyn struggled with the intensity of the Kennedy world. Visits to the family compound reportedly left her feeling constantly scrutinized. There were public arguments, and paparazzi followed them everywhere. After the couple were seen fighting in Central Park, family matriarch Ethel Kennedy reportedly stepped in with tough love, urging Carolyn not to let conflict define her. By the spring of 1999, the couple had begun marriage counseling, a clear sign things weren't easy behind closed doors. Some friends said they were close to separating, while others insisted they still seemed happy. All of this was happening as they faced his cousin's cancer battle and constant media pressure, which only added to the strain. They were working on it. They believed they had time. On July 16, 1999, John piloted a small plane toward Martha's Vineyard for Rory Kennedy's wedding. Carolyn and her sister Lauren were on board. That night, flying through heavy haze over the Atlantic, the plane went down. John was 38. Carolyn was 33. In an instant, a complicated, very real marriage was frozen into legend, and the whispers of the so-called Kennedy curse grew louder once again. Another young Kennedy gone, another devastating headline, and in many ways it echoed what had happened decades earlier. John's parents' relationship had once captivated the world too, before ending in a tragedy that left the nation in shock. Born into the prestigious Kennedy family, JFK had always been destined for greatness. He attended Harvard and served in the U.S. Naval Reserve during World War II, where he became a war hero.
The weapons of war must be abolished before they abolish us.
Jackie, born Jacqueline Lee Bouvier, came from a high society background herself, with her father being a stockbroker and her mother a socialite.
And you used to be a reporter, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Now, this is where fate stepped in. In 1952, at a dinner party hosted by a mutual friend of theirs, journalist Charles Bartlett, Jackie and JFK met for the first time.
We met at the house of a friend about 2 years ago.
Bartlett was hoping to set Jackie up with JFK, and he was thrilled when they immediately clicked. According to Ted Kennedy, JFK's youngest brother, it was love at first sight. Ted said, "My brother really was smitten with her right from the very beginning." And JFK himself admitted, "I've never met anyone like her."
You first met the senator when you interviewed him.
Well, I interviewed him shortly after I met him.
Within months of meeting, JFK and Jackie were officially courting, and by the summer of 1953, the two were engaged. Their wedding was nothing short of spectacular. On September 12, 1953, John and Jackie got married at St. Mary's Church in Newport, Rhode Island, with 600 guests at the ceremony and another 900 at the reception.
Well, have you opened all your wedding gifts?
Well, I've opened quite a few of them, and I've sent them all to Washington. We just have a couple back here.
John and Jackie were the picture-perfect couple, but like any relationship, it wasn't all roses. Just 2 years into their marriage in 1955, Jackie had to face a heartbreaking miscarriage. Then, in 1956, tragedy struck again when Jacqueline gave birth to a stillborn daughter named Arabella, while JFK was away on a yacht in the Mediterranean. Carly Simon, a longtime friend of Jackie's, later said, "His not being there for the birth of a child, his being off with a mistress while she was in the hospital. There are various things that he did that, by comparison to having a mistress, must have hurt more." In fact, according to J. Randy Taraborelli's book Jackie, Janet, and Lee, it was one of 2 times that Jackie thought about divorce. But her sister Lee Radziwill helped her through it, and the couple eventually went on to have their first child together, Carolyn Kennedy, in November of 1957. As time went on, the Kennedys faced more challenges. In 1958, JFK was reportedly involved with a young woman named Diana DeVeg, a college student he met at a benefit dinner. DeVeg later claimed they had an affair, but it eventually fizzled out. This liaison, along with others during his presidency, added more strain to his already difficult relationship with Jackie. In 1960, JFK launched his campaign for president, and Jackie found out she was pregnant again.
You first got the word of the senator's nomination last night.
Well, I was watching television, so I suppose the same time everyone else did.
Due to medical reasons, Jacqueline had to stay home during the campaign, but she still played an active role. From home, she answered letters, gave interviews, and even wrote a weekly column called Campaign Wife.
Is your baby due before Inauguration Day?
When's Inauguration Day?
JFK's efforts were successful, and by January 1961, the Kennedys were moving into the White House as the first family.
What changes, if any, have you made in the White House since you moved in?
I really haven't made many, Mr. Van Oka, because one can't. It doesn't belong to anyone but to everyone in this country.
Jackie quickly became a symbol of the ideal American woman, embodying style and grace.
Of course, I do have an official role as wife of the president, and I think every first lady should do something in this position to help the things she cares about.
But behind the polished public image, JFK's infidelities continued. Despite the challenges in their marriage, Jackie remained devoted to her husband and children throughout their time in the White House. She became a fashion icon, the perfect wife and mother, and one of the most admired first ladies in American history. The public adored Jackie, and in his own way, JFK loved her too.
It is rather hard with children. There's so little privacy. I don't mind for myself, but I think it's very hard with them.
Even with everything they had been through, the Kennedys seemed to be on a path toward healing when their 10th wedding anniversary arrived on September 12, 1963. JFK gave Jackie a special gift, an Egyptian snake bracelet. They celebrated quietly, unaware that the worst was yet to come. As we all know, the tragic end of JFK's life came on November 22, 1963, when he was assassinated in Dallas. Jackie was by his side when the shots were fired, and she was with him as they rushed to the hospital. The world watched in horror as she stood beside Lyndon B. Johnson on Air Force One after her husband's death, still wearing the blood-stained pink Chanel suit. When asked why she didn't change her clothes, Jackie simply said, "Let them see what they've done."
The Attorney General relayed to me your desire for a more modest ceremony.
I've changed my mind.
I'm sorry?
I said I've changed my mind. We will have a procession, and I will walk to the cathedral with the casket.
Their story, full of triumphs and tragedies, remains one of the most talked about in American history. But it raises a question. Was it true love? Do you think it was right for Jackie to forgive JFK? Or should she have walked away from the marriage? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell for more celebrity stories.